Welcome one and all to the 2025 St. Paul String Quartet Competition pre-final round interviews. I am Ray Shows, first violinist of the Otaria String Quartet and founder and director of America's premier chamber music competition that is exclusively for string quartets. This year marks a significant milestone for us as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of the competition here in Minnesota. And for this interview, I've selected a series of kind of icebreaker questions that will offer the audience an opportunity to learn more about you super talented musicians beyond your performances. As you can imagine, we are delighted to share these responses with you, the audience. It is my very great honor to introduce the Quartetto Speranza from Midwest Young Artists Conservatory. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes.
Speranza. Okay, good. Quartet members, could we go around the room, starting with Cecilia, who's on my left here? Could you please introduce yourself, your name, the instrument you play, and where you actually live?
Yes. So I'm Cecilia and I play violin. I am from South Dakota.
Diego?
I'm Diego. I live in Evanston.
Allison?
Hi, I'm Allison and I play violin and I live in Northbrook, Illinois.
I'm Kalia. I play viola and I'm from Vernon Hills, Illinois.
Very good. Nice to see you all. So let's start with the first icebreaker question. Will each of you please share with the audience how you were introduced to chamber music? And why don't we start with Kalia?
I actually, the first time I was in a chamber group was with Cecilia about, I think 5 years ago now, and we both signed up for MYA's summer chamber music camp, and that's actually how we met each other, and yeah.
Allison, what's your story?
The first time I ever played chamber music was in a small quartet that I formed with my friends for something called the Solo and Ensemble Festival in our school district, and we played Let It Go from Frozen.
Nice, very nice. Diego?
So my introduction to chamber music was also at MYA last fall, going into my junior year of high school. I was admitted to the symphony orchestra there, and they require all the members in the top orchestra to play chamber music. So I was placed in a string quartet, and we did Beethoven Opus 18 number 4, and it was kind of introduction to the repertoire and to playing chamber music.
That's kind of like getting thrown into the deep end of the pool, right?
A little bit.
Great piece of music. Great piece of music. Cecilia, so we sort of heard that you have made friends with Kalia earlier. What is your introduction to chamber music?
Yes, so I was blessed to grow up with two older siblings who are also musicians. So I grew up sitting in chamber rehearsals and watching coaches, and I really, really wanted to have a group of my own. So when I was 9 years old, I connected with two other young girls who were musicians in the area that I lived in, and we started up a string trio.
When exactly did the four of you coalesce into a string quartet? Was it this year or previous or what?
This is our first year playing together. We started playing together in September of this year.
Mm-hmm.
And I played with Allison in a piano trio this summer as a collaboration with the Long Long Foundation. We played with an excellent young pianist, Alex Liu, and we played together with him. And earlier that summer, the music director at MYA mentioned that he had recommended me for this group, all this stuff, and he let me know the group numbers, and I show up to the summer thing at the summer program with Allison, and we're playing in chamber, and she asks me what group I'm in for the fall, and I go, well, Allison, I think I'm in your group, and she was kind of taken aback because they had a different cellist they were working with at the time, who was and they kind of a group that they went together to France at the end of the summer, and so it was kind of a strange, a surprise for me. But it was just some misunderstanding going into the year, and it all got sorted out. But it means that the start of our playing together was very chaotic because no one really knew what was going on and who was supposed to be playing and all this stuff. And it was very chaotic, but it ended up working out because I think we are a group that works very well together.
It looks like it. You guys could have done the Schubert Cello Quintet. That was an easy way out of that. Would you please describe the process of selecting the name for your ensemble? And let's see, who would like to take that one?
I can take that one.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the year, we decided to basically just have a brainstorming session where we would all come up with a few names and then vote on which names we like best. And we actually quite quickly settled on Speranza, which in Italian means hope. And I think that it describes our group very well because we're a very optimistic and hopeful group, and we're always striving to become both better musicians and a better team.
So let's talk about the repertoire. Allison, let me ask you, how did you guys select your two pieces for the main round of the finals?
So actually, we had selected the Haydn Sunrise specifically for this competition
Mm-hmm.
because we knew there would be a Haydn round, and this was something that we had been looking forward to all year. Um, and as for Demons and Angels by Stacey Garrett, that was obviously not the most standard choice that we could have made. And we made the choice after playing through some rep. I think we started with Prokofiev quartet, and then we had some other quartets that we were thinking of. But this piece is one that I think Cecilia and Callie had worked on in the past.
Oh,
Yes. So we decided why not try it. It had already been some time since we had been playing together, so we wanted to make a choice quickly. And
Mhm.
obviously, it's very new. It was very new to me personally. But yeah, as we worked on it for a while, it's a difficult piece, but it's definitely one that stands out, and it's a fantastic piece. And since Stacey Garup is a composer who's close to home for us,
Mhm.
based in Chicago, I believe, I think that would also influence our choice.
Diego, let me ask you, what do you think of the piece?
Oh, I actually wasn't a huge fan of it initially. It's a quirky piece of music. I mean, it sounds very standard at the beginning, and then you get to this middle section and you get into all this tomfoolery. I mean, there's so much strange stuff going on, and I wasn't really all for it when we started working on the piece. But the more that we got into it, and when we played it at this first competition at Rembrandt a couple of months ago, I really just kind of it clicked for me. I mean, I really like it, and it has this kind of fire that I haven't really heard from many other quartets.
Have you worked with a composer on this piece by chance? Did you reach out to Stacey?
I've worked with Stacy before, but not on this piece, on her viola concerto,
Oh yeah,
um,
that's right.
which I've played a couple times, but unfortunately we haven't had the chance to work with her on this quartet. But she sort of talked to me a little bit about it because I mentioned that I had played it, and it has helped shape our direction with the piece and what we want to do.
Cecilia, you haven't spoken in a moment. Can you talk a little bit about you and the quartet in the Debussy Quartet?
Absolutely. So Kelly and I have actually been in competitive chamber groups for the past 3 years. And last year, as we were wrapping up, we were kind of talking about what composers we'd like to look into the following year. And Debussy was definitely one of our top ones. So later in the year, when we actually started meeting up with Allison and getting to know one another, we all really fell in love with the third movement of the Debussy, and we took it off from there.
That's an old favorite of ours too. It's very, very beautiful, and it's standing the test of time beautifully. So I'm glad you're enjoying it. The junior division compulsory round this year features a wonderful work, in my opinion, by Danuk Gujarati titled Two Pop Songs on Ancient Poems. Now, how is that coming along for your quartet? Diego, you want to start us off?
Yeah, it's been a real challenge so far. It's a very challenging piece, and it's a very quirky one in a similar way that the Garup is. It's got a lot of challenges that don't get faced in traditional repertoire with this, other underlying rhythmic pulse with all these accents on the offbeats, getting it super together and really has been a real challenge. And on top of that, all these unisons that are littered throughout. It's like a minefield of intonation. So it's been a real challenge, but it's similar to the Garrep. I didn't really love it right away, but the more we've rehearsed into it and gotten into the details, the more I've started to enjoy it.
Callie, do you like the piece?
I do. I like the piece. I like all this modern stuff. Yeah, from the first time I heard it, I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed the sort of surprise ending where it morphs into Schubert. I thought that was really fun, and Diego immediately shook his head and said no. So a lot of different opinions on the piece, but yeah.
That's okay. That's okay. So Callie, do you like the viola solo at the beginning?
Oh yeah, who doesn't like a viola solo?
Anyway.
I guess what was so interesting about it to me was that the challenges it posed is completely different from the rest of our program. And I think that's what's made it so challenging, is it forces us to learn how to tackle a set of challenges that we haven't had to face in our other repertoire.
Yeah.
And it's been very refreshing, actually, to get a new.
Well, that's heartening. That makes me feel good to know that you guys are feeling that way about this piece. Lovely. Thank you for sharing in your candor here. I do appreciate that very, very much. So this is always my favorite, the favorite question here. I won't ask Callie this because she's probably already seen this question. But the other three of you, how would you describe your group's rehearsal style? Allison, would you like to jump in on that one?
I think we actually work very well together, and for the most part, we're very productive. Our rehearsal style, I think, it's very much start running as fast as you can and just go until you kind of peter out a little bit. But it's worked for us thus far, I think. Yes.
Anybody else want to chime in?
I think we have a very good method of having team-based rehearsals where it's all very hands-on, and we typically have an idea of what we want to work on and all the different sections we want to hit and the pieces we need to focus on. And then just in working through that, we love experimenting out with new ideas, kind of bouncing ideas off of each other. And then oftentimes we end up taking a vote between multiple different ideas to see what we like best. So it's always a lot of fun.
Off of what Cecilia was saying, I don't think there's been a single passage that we haven't had an argument about. But that's a good thing, because it forces, like, we have all these different ideas that are clashing, and it really gives us an idea of how many different right ways there is to play something.
That's a beautiful observation. Yeah, I like that.
So we have all these, every rehearsal we come in and we play something, and all four of us have a different idea of how we think it should go. And I think that's very healthy for the health of a group, and to have everyone maybe not with all the same ideas, but to have many different ideas and kind of create this Frankenstein interpretation that is really, I think, pleasing, at least to us as players and hopefully to an audience.
Again, thank you for sharing that. That was the last of my formal questions. I like to end with basically, and anything else goes about your quartet that you want to share with the audiences out there in terms of who you are, something fun that the four of you done together.
Well, I'd love to actually jump off that a little bit, if I may. And it's actually a little bit more about the piece that was selected as part of the competition. And I remember the first time I saw the piece selection, it was actually before the results even came out. It was before we'd even submitted our tapes yet. And I had listened to it just by myself, and I was so excited about it. I immediately loved it. I found it so exciting. I was like, oh, we've got to learn this. So anyway, that night, we had rehearsal that night, and it was the same day I'd listened to it. And we were actually all eating dinner together. We were eating our typical meal of pizza after rehearsal.
Thumbs up.
It's like, guys, you got to hear this piece. but I didn't tell them about the Death and the Maiden at the end. So I was just waiting to see their reaction at the end, and it was very funny. But we loved it. And another funny story, actually, the first competitive chamber group Kelly and I were in was a string quartet. And the first piece we picked was Death and the Maiden. So it kind of felt like a full circle moment. It was just the right piece for us in a way.
We also started working on the Angels and Demons in that quartet, so